Okay, everyone, looks like we have a quorum.
So are we live yet?
Yes, we are live.
All right, good. Well, welcome to the April 6th, 2023 meeting of the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees. The meeting is being held in person with some committee members participating remotely. At this time, I will conduct a roll call attendance to determine if we have a quorum present. Please respond present via WebEx or present in person when your name is called. Neil Kerwin, present via WebEx. Charles Fogarty.
Present by WebEx.
Karina Edmonds.
Present via WebEx.
Richard Humphrey. Christine Heenan. Susan Petrovis.
Present via WebEx.
Bethany Jenkins.
Present via WebEx.
And Mark Palange.
Present WebEx.
All right, so we do have a quorum. I want to remind all members of the committee that, and the note taker, that please identify yourself as clearly as you can whenever you comment or make a motion or second a motion. Participants using WebEx are required to keep their cameras on at all times. As remote members, and still all persons present at the meeting location must be clearly audible and visible to one another. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that the University of Rhode Island occupies the traditional homeland of the Narragansett Nation and Niantic peoples. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes. Those would be the minutes of the February 7, 2023 meeting of the Academic Affairs and Research Committee.
Charlie Fogarty, I move we approve the minutes.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second, Sue Petrovas.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. We can now move to our next agenda item, which is the report of the Chief Academic Officer. Barbara?
Good morning, and I'd like to update the committee on a number of items. The first item is to share that we have several searches that are now launched or underway. This includes 3 separate search committees for the Dean of the College of Pharmacy, the Dean of the College of Nursing, and the Dean of the College of Health Sciences. And Isaacson Miller is a search firm that has been engaged for orchestrating these activities. Also, the Dean of the Search for the College of Business is now complete, and I am pleased to share that Dr. Sean Rogers has been appointed effective June 2023, and we welcome Dr. Rogers to this new role. And Dr. Rogers currently serves as the Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President for Community, Equity, and Diversity at the University of Rhode Island. The second item is to update the committee on the honorary degree recipients. And in addition to the 2023 recipients that have been previously voted on by the Board of Trustees, an additional worthy candidate was put forward, which you received under separate cover. And this individual underwent the same vetting process that the other honorary degree recipients did by the committee. And the committee was convened in February of 2020, on February 22nd of 2023 to review the nominee, and a recommendation has been put forward to the Board of Trustees for vote at the April meeting. Item 3 is to share with you that this is the time of year that the annual reviews, promotion and tenure reviews occur, and faculty reviews are nearing completion, as well as the tenure recommendations, and they will be forthcoming to the Board of Trustees for approval at the June meeting. Item 4 is to inform the committee that the state of Rhode Island has plans to potentially sell the Shepherd's Building, which is located in Providence. And the Shepherd's Building houses various URI programming and activities, and we will be moving several of these programs to Kingston. We are currently exploring alternative opportunities in Providence to maintain our presence there, which is important to us. And ongoing programming continues in the Nursing Education Center that is based in Providence. And we are working with them to accommodate our Doctorate of Business Administration in the interim. And residence, again, in Providence remains important to the academic mission of the University of Rhode Island. And we are making both short-term and long-term plans to achieve just that. Item 5 relates to the URI strategic plan, and just to let people know that the colleges are actively engaged in developing their respective action plans that map directly onto the priority areas that are outlined in our strategic plan. And for example, the College of Engineering had this as a focus of their recent Dean's Advisory Council. The College of Pharmacy is near completion with identification of the actions that actually link onto those 4 pillars of the plan. So we are moving along quite nicely with a target date of early May for completion of the initial drafts. And then item 6 is to update you on external programmatic reviews. This involves outside reviewers who are brought in to objectively evaluate and review selected programs. And this may be a normal review cycle, for example, for professionally accredited programs, or it may be something that we do because it's time to evaluate various programs that may be needed at this point. And we have 3 reviews in process, just to let you know. One is the College of Pharmacy. They've completed a draft or something that is a self-evaluation or called a self-study. And that will be sent to external reviewers prior to an on-site review to evaluate the program. And this visit is scheduled for October 31st through November 2nd. And again, this is normal for accredited professional programs to occur. The second review is that of the honors program. They have recently undergone an on-site review by 2 reviewers from the National Collegiate Honor Society Council. And this occurred this past month, and they met with several individuals across the campus. And the last self-study for the honors program occurred in 2013. So it was time to do this. And we are awaiting their report. We look forward to it and gaining insights on how we can continue to enhance the student experience at the University of Rhode Island. Lastly, the library is the third area that is undergoing a review. It's actually in the process of scheduling an external review. And this too will be useful for identifying the strengths and areas for continuous improvement. Item 7 is a reminder to committee members that the 2023 commencement is scheduled for Saturday, May 29th at 10 a.m. on the quadrangle of the Kingston campus. So we hope to see you there. And if you should need more information, please contact Anne-Marie Smiley, and we would be happy to help you with any questions that you have. Her number is 401-874-2864. And we look forward to seeing you there and celebrating with the class of 2023. Lastly, item 8 relates to the transition in the position of the Vice President for Research and Economic Development. Dr. Peter Snyder has resigned from this position, and we'd like to thank him for his service to the university. Dr. Bethany Jenkins, URI Professor of Cell and Molecular Biology and Oceanography, has been appointed the Interim Vice President of Research and Economic Development, and this is effective April 8th, 2023. She was drawn from the URI faculty. Dr. Jenkins, as many of you know, is a leading researcher who will play an important role in evaluating our research enterprise and emphasizing public scholarship as the central component of our new strategic plan, as well as our academic mission as the state of Rhode Island's flagship university. Dr. Jenkins will have a dual reporting structure to the president and the provost and executive vice president for academic affairs, which will be really important to actualize our vision set forth in the strategic plan to expand our scholarship and grow our research PhD programs in the colleges. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. From now to the committee questions or comments on the provost's report? Okay, if not, it is our practice, as you know, to also have at each of our meetings an update and report from the Chief Research Officer. As the provost just indicated, Dr. Snyder has stepped down from his position as Vice President for Research and Economic Development. So we'll have no report from Peter at this time, but I do want to echo what Barbara said about Peter. We really appreciate the work that Peter's done on behalf of the university and the really excellent reporting work that he's done for our committee, and we wish him the best. Should also note that we're looking forward to working with someone who will then be our former colleague on this committee, Bethany, in her new role. If I heard the appointment date correctly, Bethany, you've got 2 days of freedom left, so I'd enjoy them. And we're looking forward to working with you in that new role. All right, we have two interrelated discussion items. They're in the area of committee housekeeping business. Article 5 of the bylaws of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees requires that committees develop and make available charters outlining their responsibilities and obligations, and a calendar that will reflect which of the items that are in the jurisdiction of the committee will be considered at various points in our academic year. You have received drafts of both the committee charter and the calendar.
Okay.
You'll note that these are for discussion at this meeting. We will take action on these at the June meeting of the committee. But I encourage every member of the committee to look at the calendar carefully, look at the charter carefully. And if there are items other than those that are listed as changes, which are really quite minor, to please bring them forward so we can give them due consideration. On the charter, there's a change in the reporting requirement, or I should say liaison requirement. It did include the chief diversity officer. We're clarifying that so that the chief diversity officer now serves essentially as a board-wide resource and is free to meet and can meet with us at any point where we feel their input is critical. The second relates to the calendar, and that indicates that at the June meeting of each year, we will do our review of charter and calendar to ensure that the committee is meeting its obligations in that regard. So, any questions about those two related items? And with the understanding that we'll be dealing with them in whatever depth is required at the June session.
Hi, Neil, this is Karina. My
Yep.
question, I guess, is to Barbara. Related to this, I guess you didn't mention in the new search, will there be now, there a new search for a diversity officer to take Sean Rogers' former position? Did I miss
Yes,
it?
there will be a new search to move that forward. That hasn't been established yet, but we will be moving that forward relatively quickly.
Thank you.
So it will be, the search will be chaired by Ellen Reynolds, VP Student Affairs, and it's underway in terms of forming the committee.
Thank you.
As Barb mentioned, it's not really launched yet, but we're on the way.
Thanks, Karina. Any other questions regarding calendar and charter? One thing I might add is that Barbara and I have talked, and we've mentioned this briefly in previous committee meetings. We want to be sure, during the next year of our work, that we pay a little bit more attention to the instructional program of the university. We have spent, understandably, a great deal of time on the research agenda for the university, and of course, the routine appointment and other matters that this committee is responsible for. But I'm hoping that we can take a more in-depth look at quality of instruction, effectiveness of instruction. The university takes its assessment responsibilities very, very seriously. And I think the board will be impressed with what they hear. But we want to be sure it's clear that our responsibility to ensure a high-quality teaching program and mentoring program is seen as a visible and important part of our agenda. Okay, if there's no more discussion on the discussion items, we now have a number of action items to consider. The first of these is the awarding of honorary degree. You've had a confidential memo that's been circulated prior to the session. And what I'd like now is to, if we could, receive a motion that the URI Board of Trustees Committee on Academic Affairs and Research approve the awarding of an honorary degree for commencement of 2023 as recommended and presented.
Motion.
Thank you, Karina. A second?
Second,
Oh.
Sue Petravoss.
Thank you, Susan. Any discussion? Okay, not hearing any discussion. Would all of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, the motion carries. We now have a review of the awarding of undergraduate and graduate degrees, diplomas, and certificates and honors to be conferred by the president to the candidates that will be completing their work at the conclusion of the spring 2023 term. Obviously, a critically important function for us is to authorize the awarding of these degrees. So can I have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the awarding of undergraduate and graduate degrees, diplomas, certificates, and honors to be conferred by the president to the candidates who have completed their requirements at the conclusion of the spring 2023 term and who are approved by the faculty of the University of Rhode Island as recommended and presented in enclosure 4B.
Karina
Charlie
Edmonds,
Fogarty,
so
so
moved.
moved.
Oh, second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing no one in opposition, the motion carries unanimously. Our next item is the review of the tenure of Dr. Kenneth Rabin in the Graduate School of Oceanography. I will ask our provost to brief the committee on this recommended action.
Sure, thank you. So Dr. Rubin is joining us from the University of Hawaii. He holds a bachelor's in chemistry from the University of California in San Diego and a master's and a PhD from Scripps Institution of Oceanography at the University of California, San Diego. His degrees are in oceanography as well as earth sciences, respectively. His expertise is in the area of geochemistry, volcanology, geochronology, and sea level history. He is a fellow in the Geological Society of America and has over 60 peer-reviewed published scientific articles and 2 books, one that's a general reference on the Encyclopedia of the Earth, and the other is on volcanoes and earthquakes targeted toward middle schoolers. So he's joining us this June.
Thank you, Barbara. So with that background information, can I have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the granting of tenure effective June 18, 2023 to Dr. Kenneth Rubin, Graduate School of Oceanography, who has met the requirements for tenure at the University of Rhode Island as recommended and presented at enclosure 4C.
Karina Edmonds, so moved.
Second, Sue Petravoss.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed to the motion? Thank you. That motion carries. We now have the review of 2 academic program actions. The first involving closure of two programs. We asked the provost again if she could brief the committee on the reasons behind these actions.
Sure, thank you. So the first program that's under consideration is the BS in Nonprofit Administration. And at present, this is one that has been offered in the College of Education and Professional Studies. We have seen dwindling demand for this. The admissions actually were suspended in fall of 2022, and we have no students in the program. So given the current market, it seems appropriate to move forward with closure. And then the second, or do you want to take in the
Oh,
second?
go ahead. No, well, you probably should just do both. I think we can and take action on both.
Sure. And the second program is the BS in Professional Leadership Studies. And again, there we have a demand that has certainly declined over time. And it's a low enrolled degree program. There is a Teach Out program that is in place for the individuals who are currently enrolled. 12 that are active, 4 that are 14 total. And so that's certainly a plan that has been implemented. They've all are aware. And so there it really is no other actions to be taken in terms of helping these people transition through the rest of the program.
Thank you, Barbara. Can I have a
Neil?
motion then that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the following academic program changes as recommended and presented in closure 4D. Closure of the URI BS in Nonprofit Administration and closure of the URI BS degree in Professional Leadership Studies. Can I have a motion to that effect?
Rena Edmonds, so motion.
Second,
have
Sue
s-
Petrobras.
Okay, thank you.
Neil, I have a question. If you-
Yeah, I was just going to ask if there were any discussion on it. Go ahead, Charles.
Barbara, how often do we review programs to determine whether or not they meet current needs for the university?
Thank you. I'm actually gonna review them regularly, and Dr. Vieger, who's our associate vice provost, actually has the schedule for that. So, Ann, do you want to chime in here? You're on mute.
It doesn't appear her audio may not be working.
We also have with us Dr. Vaccaro, who is our associate dean in the College of Education and Professional Studies. So, Dr. Vaccaro, you may also know exactly how often that your particular program is evaluated with this. Thank you.
The professional leadership studies, we were ongoing as the enrollment was really low. And in the College of Education, the School of Education portion, it is based on accreditation standards with national, our AQUIP accreditor and our Rhode Island Department of Education.
So to help answer that question, we have normal, regular scheduled program reviews here as part of our continuous improvement evaluation plan here for all programs at URI. But for certain accredited programs, they may be more frequently depending on the accreditor.
Thank you.
Let me follow up on Charlie's question. Is there an enrollment threshold that really triggers a review, even if it's not in a regular program review cycle?
I don't know that it's a threshold per se. It is dependent on the major, for example, because there's different levels that would be appropriate for particular majors.
Yeah, I mean, that's tailored, of course, yeah, but I mean, you would move to take a look at a low enrolled program
Absolutely.
relative to the academic standard, right?
And we do that for programs. We also actually do that for courses too, on a
Okay,
regular basis.
right, great.
Recently, we just underwent that for courses.
Okay, any other questions related to the motion? We have a motion and a second. If not, all in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed, I want to be sure I didn't hear anybody opposed? No, okay. This motion carries as well. There's now, we have in front of us a review of the creation of a new program. This is, it's always significant when an institution launches a new doctoral program. So before we get into any motion discussion, I'll ask the provost to brief us on the logic behind the creation of this degree.
Great. So this is a PhD in education, and it's certainly an area of great interest and demand. As we all know, teachers are certainly a scarcity and certainly in demand in terms of the workforce. And I'm going to ask Dr. Vaccaro, who's also the Associate Dean of the program that oversees this, if you have any additional information that you'd like to add.
Just excited for the new PhD program. We currently have one that's joint with Rhode Island College, and it hasn't functioned quite well in the last few years. And our new program is much more research intensive, with more required credits so that our scholars can truly be scholar educators. And we're hoping to have a more national draw than a kind of regional one. Pretty excited. We spent the last year and a half designing this curriculum, and we're excited to launch. Happy to answer any other questions.
Sure, Dean Vaccaro, any early and expected numbers of enrollees? I mean, what will you expect the incoming classes to look like?
That's a great question. We have about 70 people who've inquired about the program, which hasn't even started yet. And so we do have a robust pool of people who are interested. So we're really hoping to have a solid class of at least 10, maybe 20. I think it depends on how many we can handle. It also depends on how many assistantships we're able to provide to folks who are going to move here across the country. So
I know that it's a PhD and not an EDD, and that can be a significant issue for those who are likely to attend. Do you want to comment on whether those alternatives were considered, or has it been a PhD that you thought was appropriate?
It's a great question. That's a great question. There are a number of other EDD programs in the area, and those kind of draw the folks who are working professionals. We do expect to draw some working professionals in our PhD program, but we really wanted to align the focus, the scholarly focus and the research focus of this PhD with the university's move towards being more research intensive, and really aligning our program with where the university is moving. And we think that a PhD does that a little bit better than an EDD.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee?
No, you asked all the questions I'd wanted to ask, but then I guess just realistically, based on the staffing that you have, what do you think the program would look like? Is it 10 or 20? Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I'm thinking that the first class will probably be on the lower side, and then we'll see what we can manage in terms of our staffing. We have some great new faculty members coming on board, and we have faculty who are really eager to participate. The design of the current program is that the committees need to have 4 plus an external person, and that's overwhelming. And so the typical committee structure for URI PhD programs is 3, and that will be much more reasonable, we think. We have a lot of new scholars who are excited to be mentors to our PhD students. So we're thinking 10 to 15 probably for the first class is probably a reasonable goal.
Thank you. And then just quickly, what is there a funding agency from DC that would fund these programs for assistantships?
That's a really great question. We are hoping to rely on the university supplied graduate teaching assistantships because our students should be also in the classroom and teaching. So we have that as one pool of assistantships. We also have partnerships across campus. For instance, in the Office of the Teaching and Learning Office, it's a really great partnership with our students and their assistantships. We also are encouraging, and we've had a whole year of programming for our faculty to write more research grants for the Department of Education, Department of Health. It's a lot of private funders, foundations that offer, like Spencer and WT Grant, that offer research-related funding and the National Science Foundation. And so we're encouraging our faculty to write in research assistantships, because with a PhD that's research intensive, we really want students to have research assistantships too. So we're going to have a mix, we believe, of teaching and research assistantships in this program. And then probably a few folks who are working professionals who also want a PhD who will pay tuition or use a tuition waiver, but that would be probably the smaller number.
Thank you.
One additional question. From the 70 inquiries or so that you have so far, is there any pattern? Are these folks that will be coming to us with BA only or BS, or are they masters completed?
Most of them have master's completed, and that's going to be a requirement of this program. And we have a number of master's programs that will funnel people into if they want to start this PhD. So it's not typical to go right from undergrad to a PhD in education. You wouldn't want someone who just got their undergrad to be a principal of a school or a policymaker in DC. You'd want them to have some experience, and that typically is master's base experience.
Okay, Bethany, you have a question?
Yeah, Anne Marie, that's really exciting. And in sort of my new role, I'd be really excited to work with you and your faculty. There are a lot of, I think, cool opportunities coming down the pike from the National Science Foundation and ways to partner across campus. And if we can help facilitate that, particularly even science grants that could fund students in education to do an education piece, because as you know, the NSF requires broader impact activities on all of its awards. So we'll be in touch, but I'm really excited to see that. And I think there'll be really cool ways to fund a lot of the students. So that's terrific.
Thank you so much. We would really appreciate that partnership. We have a number of NSF grants now, but we definitely would look for more.
And then consistent, actually, following up on Charlie's question more specifically, what would you imagine the first significant review of the program to be? 5 years out or so?
I would say we'd be flexible with that. It's typical in education for about a 5-year cycle,
Okay.
but we would be flexible with if folks wanted one earlier.
All right, good. Okay, any additional questions? Can I have a motion that the Academic and Affairs and Research Committee recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the following academic program creation as recommended and presented in closure 4E, creation of the PhD in Education graduate degree program?
Karina Edmonds, so moved.
Charlie Fogarty, second.
Okay, thank you. Vote, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Before we move to adjourn, any items for the good of the order from the committee or from our resource colleagues?
Neil, just one quick thing. I don't want to keep us long, but in our previous meetings, we had discussed enrollments and, the demographic cliff that's coming in a few years. I also saw recently in the Wall Street Journal that the survey on Americans' view of the value of higher education, which I thought was very disturbing, and certainly has the potential to impact enrollments across the country there. But where I think for the first time ever that a majority of Americans said that higher education is not worth it. And I think that should be of concern to any of us in this position throughout the country, I don't know that we can turn it around ourselves, but combined with the demographic decline, that's going to create some challenges for us in the future.
That's a great point, Charlie. I mean, I know that the national associations, ACE and others, were borderline stunned with this set of results. And certainly first time in my lifetime I've seen anything quite like it. It is systemic. So there are a number of things that URI will simply have to react to, but I think we can expect over the next couple of years, even in just the routine reporting on enrollment patterns, we'll begin to see whether or not either demographics and or questions of value are beginning to show up, at the front end of the funnel. So I think it behooves this committee to expect to be very attentive to that. And I do think it's related to the issue I mentioned earlier, which is the quality and the value of the instruction that we perform as a university. Okay, anything else? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
Rena Edmonds, second.
Okay, well, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That one's usually unanimous, so glad to see we kept